Hello everybody, welcome back to Ferrigno Freedom channel. I'm Dante Ferrigno. I have been on a carnivore way of eating known as the lion diet now for 3 years, and it has literally changed everything. As you saw in the intro that showed my body side by side with when I started lion diet as opposed to about 2 years into eating this way, that it's made a world of difference in my life. One of the differences that it's made is it's allowed me to be able to do exercise that I couldn't do before. There was a time when I couldn't even get into a squat position or something even approximating a squat position without having a lot of pain and being able to pull myself up or have somebody lift me back up because I just didn't have the strength in my legs to be able to do that. I thought my knees were shot. I thought it was pretty much over for me for doing any kind of running. But since I've been doing lion diet, I've started to do exercise again. It took several months. It didn't start at the beginning with exercise. It was all about changing the way I eat that gave me the energy and the focus and the determination to be able to do this. But most importantly, the energy, because I didn't realize how drained I was of energy until I started eating this way and cutting all the poison out of my life. Just after Christmas last year, 2023, I discovered the idea that sprinting could be an extremely beneficial exercise. I never would have considered sprinting to be the way to go to get into exercise. I had always grown up seeing people run or jog or doing a lot of weight training. And I used to do a lot of weight training when I was younger, and I've tried to get into weight training since then. The biggest problem for me, though, is that every time I try to put together some kind of routine where I'm doing a series of weight training or a lot of walking, I haven't really tried to run because it just hasn't dawned on me that I had the ability to do that. I thought that, with the back issues I had when I was younger and with the knee issues I had later on, that was just something that was behind me. But with all the exercise that I was trying to do, one of the biggest things that I would find is I would have burnout from trying to do too much all the time. And even doing a light amount, when you're adding a whole bunch of different exercises, eventually just it becomes too much time in somebody's day if you have a busy schedule like I do, because I'm trying to feed a family on a single income. And it's not always easy. I still work a full-time job. I'm not a full-time YouTuber, although I do spend a full-time job amount of time focused on doing these videos for you guys, because I think it's helpful for you to be able to see that somebody took themselves from where I was when I started to where I am now and to where I want to be. At age 51, I'm feeling the best I ever have in my life. And since I've incorporated sprinting, today I believe is like day 46, that I've been doing sprinting every day, with the exception of days when I wake up and I realize my legs just hurt too much to do it that day. I need to give it a rest some days. I haven't been doing it. Now, I have also juggled with some ideas on how often you should be sprinting. Dr. Sean O'Mara was the person who turned me on to sprinting, and I've had him on the show recently to discuss a lot of the things that you can do with sprinting and proper diet. And overall, it's about a lifestyle change. This new lifestyle for me is really amazing that sprinting has become part of my life, and it is making a huge difference, and it doesn't take nearly as much time. But as I was saying, I've been juggling about how often you should do sprinting, because one of the first things I discovered about Dr. Sean O'Mara is he was offering the idea of a 30-day sprint challenge. So you were sprinting every day. As a beginner, maybe it would just be 1 or 2 or even 3 10 to 20 second sprints at a time, which for me has been roughly 60 meters in that 10 to 11 second range, all the way up to 15 seconds from when I started, as well as 120 meters for 20 second plus range and 180 meters in that 30 to 40 second range. Now, I know I've already rambled on for a long time, but I want to let you know that I am completely new to sprinting at age 51, and it is turning out to be one of the best things I've ever done. There are times when I'm like, oh my gosh, my legs are killing me, especially at night or even middle of the day when I'm at work and I realize that I'm like, gosh, man, I haven't been on my feet all that much today, but I'm already tired. But I'm also noticing that I'm getting much stronger legs. They're much more solid than they were before. I'm getting much more flexible because I'm learning to do more stretches beforehand. And I'm trying to make sure that I incorporate the best techniques for sprinting that I can. And there's a lot of confusing information out there about it. I've had people say everything from do run heel to toe, to don't run heel to toe, to run flat foot, to run on the ball of your foot. I've seen several sprinting videos where they don't talk about how your feet land at all. So I'm always interested when somebody shares something with me that might be enlightening to this sprinting journey. And it was a viewer named Esther Pacheco de Mendonca out of Brazil that shared this video with me called HIIT versus Hirt, HIIT versus HIRT. How to do a sprint workout the right way. I am so interested in finding out ways to make sure I do this right that I thought it would be great if we watch this together. It's a very short video. I've already talked longer than this video is. So let's go ahead and bring it up and take a look at it, and we'll take it from there.
Brad Kearns here. Talk about sprinting. There's nothing like sprinting. It's the ultimate primal workout, the ultimate boost of anti-aging hormones. And also, if you're looking at reducing excess body fat, there's nothing better than weight-bearing sprinting. But today I'm going to show you a really simple, effective running sprint workout. You can use the same philosophy into whatever activity you're doing, but this honors the latest, greatest breakthroughs in exercise physiology. Special shout out to Dr. Craig Marker at breakingmuscle.com and his transformative article, HIIT versus Hirt. HIRT stands for High Intensity Repeat Training. We know what HIIT stands for, High Intensity Interval Training. It's the latest, greatest fitness rage. But here's the thing about a classic interval workout, is that you're being asked to output over and over at a high level with insufficient rest. So it turns into a very difficult workout. So you'll see people in a group exercise bicycle class doing 10 sprints of 30 seconds with 10 seconds rest, or 10 one-minute sprints, or whatever's going on. People running around the track at track workout doing 4 800s, or all kinds of things where
I got to admit, I've been kind of approaching sprinting that way up until recently. A video commenter had mentioned something about not the time between your sprints is important, but your heart rate. So I usually have my Apple Watch on. It's charging right now, and it has a feature that tracks my heart rate. It's a fitness app feature that does have the feature built in where it shows your heart rate. And I started using that a few days ago. Instead of counting, 60 seconds, 120 seconds, or whatever low amount of time I was doing, I haven't been thinking about the time lately. I've been starting to think about getting my heart rate down to something a bit more normal. I notice when I'm sprinting, my heart rate can hit a high 160s, low 170s. And once it gets down to under 125, that's when I do my next sprint. If I'm figuring that right, it's about a 70% recovery rate, or getting down to 70% of what my maximum heart rate was. And that usually has been enough for me to feel like I've recovered enough before I do the next sprint. And I like it. I like the way it makes it easier to do the same quality of sprint every time. I don't know how long it takes because I'm only focusing on the heart rate now. And I'm hoping that he's going to get into that. So let's go ahead and see.
The duration of the sprint can get too long such that you're not really delivering a maximum explosive effort. So when we talk about sprinting, the proper use of the term sprinting, I'm talking about a workout that's truly explosive and stimulates that wonderful pulse of anti-aging hormones, testosterone, growth hormone, helping you build back stronger and more resilient without the risk of breakdown, burnout, illness, and injury that happens when you get into a HIIT pattern, when you do these workouts too frequently, when the duration is too long of the effort such that you're no longer sprinting, you're just trying to hang on, and when you're not recovering enough in between the efforts. So if we talk about high intensity repeat training, the word repeat means that you're delivering a very nice explosive performance every time because you are taking what Dr. Marker calls luxurious rest intervals. I've modified my own sprint workout that I've been doing for over a decade after being exposed to this philosophy, because what I was doing was trying to come here and be the tough guy, the ex-pro triathlete with all this endurance, and I'd do my sprint and then I'd rest for like 15 seconds and I'd be like, all right, bring it on, let's go for another one. And of course I could do it, and I could do it just fine, and I could hit the same time. But guess what happened 36 to 48 hours later? I felt lousy. I'm in the kitchen looking around for something to eat, trying to adhere to the ketogenic diet or whatever my goals are. They go off the rails when you've depleted yourself because your brain is telling you to consume more carbohydrates, to rest more, be lazier throughout the day because you've exhausted yourself at these depleting workouts. So you want to get away from the depleting, exhaustive workouts and be strong and explosive. What does that mean? That means the duration of your sprints get taken down to this magic window of between 10 and 20 seconds. The body cannot deliver maximum output for longer than 20 seconds. What's happening if you ask your body to sprint beyond 20 seconds is you will ensue this very destructive cellular breakdown process to fuel this inferno to give you the energy to keep going, to try and keep going. It's called disassembling and deamination of the cellular proteins. You're trashing your cells just so you can make it one lap around the track or 3/4 or whatever the duration of your sprint. That's too long. So the characteristics of an excellent sprint workout: the efforts are brief in duration and highly explosive, between 10 and 20 seconds. Luxurious rest intervals. In my case, I'm going to sprint for 10 and rest for a minute, and then of appropriate number that you're not getting tired and broken down. So I can do 8 if you want to start with 4, 6, whatever. But guess what? If you're thinking that you can do 12 or 14, it's not about volume. This is a sprint workout. So it's about super high quality explosive efforts and feeling great 36 to 48 hours later. So let's get it right. Let's get it explosive and then go home while you're still feeling peppy and energized because you made 4 great efforts or 6 or 8.
I got to admit what he was saying about doing longer than 20 seconds. I noticed that when I do the 180s because I hit those in around 30, 31 seconds now. So that's a good bit over the 20-second range. But when I do the 120s and the 60s don't seem like they're enough. The 120s really seem perfect. And occasionally I've been doing 100-meter sprints on an uphill incline that's not far from my house. I'm running with minimalist type shoes on. I use Vibrams that are basically like a sock for your foot. It's like that little flap of plastic that's on the sole of your shoe only, as opposed to a foam of any kind. There's no pad on the inside. There's no pad on the outside. It's just basically your foot feeling the ground and just enough protection to keep you from cutting your foot on sharp objects. But those 100 meters are fantastic. I love those 100-meter runs. I did 5 of those this morning. And it seems like that 100-meter to 120-meter is that sweet spot for me to hit 20 seconds. 60-meter range is that sweet spot for me to hit 10 seconds. And I still do throw in a 180 occasionally because I think it's good to keep your body guessing or maybe push it a little bit once in a while. But I don't do 180s on the regular. A lot of times I don't even do the 180 because I've realized that once I go past 120, I am really pushing myself to get that extra 60 in. And I don't feel like I'm giving it as much as I was on the first 100 meters or so. It really does start to drop off and you're just having to force yourself to keep going. And I notice when I come to a stop on those 180s, a lot of times I don't have that same, oh, I can't stop really fast feeling that I get when I finish doing a 160 or a 120. I just kind of die at the finish line, you know, because it's like, oh boy, I really had to push to get here. And I also noticed that my heel will start hitting the ground a little bit more when I'm not going as fast. I'm running on the balls of my feet as much as I possibly can, and it looks like I'm landing flat-footed, but my heel rarely hits the ground when I'm doing these sprints. So it's noticeably different, though, at the end of that 180 meters.
I talked about the number of sprints to do and how I usually do 8, but at a certain point late in the workout, you're going to feel that maybe you haven't exactly repeated that awesome effort for the first one, and that's the time to end the workout. We don't want to suffer through our last couple of reps. They all want to be great. So I usually get 8 great ones in, especially when I shorten the duration down to that magic window of 10 to 20 seconds. Try it yourself. It's all about being explosive, delivering the proper hormonal message for anti-aging, fitness, performance, weight loss. Sprinting is happening.
I definitely would agree with that. Sprinting is fantastic. And I've probably been doing, more than I should at different times. I kind of aim for 600 meters during my sprint overall workout. So I'm breaking it up either into 1060s, which I don't think I've really ever done 1060s. I usually do a handful of 60s and a few 120s and maybe 1 or 2 180s in there, whatever it takes to get to 600 meters. Sometimes I don't do that much, like I did 500 meters today. Really, when I got out there, my legs were kind of sore from yesterday. I thought maybe I'll get 2 in today, so I'm going to go ahead and do them on the incline. But I wound up getting 5, so I was happy about that. And I feel great right now. Hopefully it's going to continue to be that way, but I do know that I am seeing tremendous results from sprinting, something I didn't think I would be able to do ever again in my life, something I really didn't like doing even when I was younger because I was always out of shape. So it started with the right diet, but sprinting has turned out to be a wonderful change for me. And I thank you, Esther, for sharing this video with me. And I hope that you guys found some benefit in watching this too, especially if you're joining me on this sprinting journey. I get a lot of questions about things, whether I should be doing this, if I've had knee replacements or hip replacements. And look, all I can say is you got to know your limitations. But there was a time where if I would have started doing this, I would have been not prepared for it. So make sure that you're prepared for it. Make sure that you've been working up to the exercise that you need to do before you start trying something as hard as sprinting is, if your body is just as out of shape as I was when I started this way of eating 3 years ago, where just getting up and walking for 30 minutes a day was a challenge for me. But as I built up, got into walking more and more, getting up to almost 7 miles a day at one point, dropping back down to an average of 3. Then I started adding some weight, which I love the idea of doing some weight resistance training while sprinting as well. I don't know if I would want to try that with the heavy pack on like I was doing. I noticed he showed pulling behind him a heavy weight tied to a rope or something like that. So that may be something I get to eventually. If you guys got any questions about sprinting or about what I've been doing to sprint, that's great. Leave them in the comment section. I'll try to get to them if I can. But also, if you guys have any questions about this way of eating, because that's the vehicle that got me here. If it wasn't for this way of eating, I wouldn't be able to do the things I'm doing now that I couldn't do when I was 48, that I'm now doing when I'm 51. Well, that's all I got for this one, guys. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.
If we pay extra, could we maybe get some grease or fat?
Still coming out.
I love it just as much as I did before.